You know, I'm going to do my list of who it feels good to see. uh, yes, 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 yes. But it is great to be back, coming back from Albany. Albany has, under this administration, I was telling the governor yesterday, Albany has treated us well, and it was reflected in the list of items, only 5 priorities that we had, because we have been able to accomplish so much with our delegation from New York City and our partnership with the governor, everything from increasing the earned income tax credit to what we needed for the housing initiatives, to public safety, our subway safety plan. The governor stood side by side, and even through the migrant and asylum seeker crisis, the greatest humanitarian crisis this city, I believe, has ever seen. And the governor was there, stride by stride. Our delegation, the majority leader, Andrew Stewart Cousins, Speaker Carl Hasty, and all of our partners. And we just really wanted to thank them. And privately, as I sat down with them, I just personally told them how much we appreciated their support. But again, we're on the pursuit here. The best place to raise a family in New York City. And every day we're going to continue to work hard to do that. Affordability, public safety, and housing for working class New Yorkers. And last month, as we look at the safety aspect of it, we talked about it, 20,000 guns removed off our streets, and the crime stats, not only in January, but in December as well. But if you look at last month, major crime citywide were down almost 17% overall. And this gives us 2 straight months with double-digit decreases in crime. And below ground, we saw a whopping 36% decrease in transit crime last month. In January, we reached another major milestone in our mission to make our city safer for working class families. Last month had the fewest number of shootings of any January in recorded history. We also had the 3rd lowest number of shooting victims, the 4th lowest number of homicides, and the 3rd lowest number of robberies, burglaries of any January in recorded history. And these numbers are impressive, but the story behind them speaks volume, and that includes the tireless effort of our men and women in the police department. We're removing 20,000 illegal guns, and really 1,400 were untraceable ghost guns, which is extremely significant as we continue to combat both using our lawsuits as well as our enforcement to deal with the untraceable ghost gun. And we have removed 3,000 more guns in the last 3 years than were removed in the 3 years before we came into office. In the last 3 years, there's been a 23% reduction in homicides and a whopping 42% reduction in shootings. And this is a story that involves lives being saved, traumas being alleviated, if not eradicated, and bringing down gun violence in the city. We're the safest big city in America. And when we move on to affordability, we also committed to creating a more affordable city. For the 8th time in our administration alone, we've broken the record for total jobs in New York City with more than 4 million, over 4 million, 4.77 million jobs to be exact. That is a record 8 times we have broken the record around jobs. And that's why this week is Affordability Weeks, our Jobs Week, as we're focusing on jobs and how we're creating jobs. And First Deputy Mayor Maria Torres Springer and her team focus on race for space. Our retail industry was decimated during COVID. We know we have to look at the potential of 50 million square feet of office space leased by the end of the year. As we focus on that, we want to create thousands of jobs in the process. We want to turn vacant office spaces into job opportunities. That's how we see it. And we're bringing even our small businesses up. We have a record-breaking 183,000 small businesses in our city so they can continue to flourish. 1 in 5 small businesses in our city has opened during our administration. And let me say that again. 1 in 5 small businesses have opened during this administration. And the big reasons why is really Commissioner Gross continuing the work of the former Commissioner Kim. Small Business Services has really revamped and have made sure we stop using citation as a form of taxation. We have made reforms that included more than $50 million in fines and fees no longer coming out of the pockets of our businesses, and we're going to continue to make sure that they can keep every dollar to continue to thrive in this city. And so we announced a $2 million investment to expand our highly successful Jobs NYC model, which uses hiring halls and community partnerships to bring job opportunities together on the ground where people are. This has to remain a safe place to raise children and families, and we're going to continue to say that, and we are going to continue to respond to all of those issues that are impacting us. And so before I open up for question, I just want to remind everyone that we're expecting around 1 inch of snow to fall on the city tomorrow during the morning commute. Agencies are preparing to respond, including the Department of Sanitation, which will be bringing the road, which will be priming the roads and have 700 salt spreaders ready. So please use public transportation as possible and drive so slowly if you have to drive. But, you know, when you talk about driving slowly, you want to make sure that you do it with a child seat, particularly we have a new baby. And so we want to show the baby of Emma and Ryan from our team here at City Hall for welcome their baby boy, Elliot. You know, just really proud of him, and he's home with mom. And so Emma, Ryan, and Elliot, we're all wishing you the best, and good luck to you as you raise your baby in the city that is safe for children and families. Let me open some questions. How's your baby doing, by the way?
They're both amazing. Dan.
Mr. Mayor, great to see you.
Hey, Dan is in the room. Oh, this is going to be a good off topic.
Mr. Mayor, I want to ask you first and foremost about your Tin Cup Day. $1.1 billion is what you asked for some of the migrant funding. And speaking to a number of our sources, a number of Albany lawmakers, they said that money's not coming, right? They're not going to come your way. The governor kind of hinted at that in some of her statements yesterday as well. If you don't get the $1.1 billion in funding, could the city be looking at pay cuts again for some programs across the city? That's question number one. I'll let you take that one first.
Listen, we have been extremely successful, and you know we've done this dance before, but we have been extremely successful with our city lawmakers in Albany. We're going to sit down with them. We're going to lay out exactly why we need the funding. And we're going to give them the numbers and show them success. We have been extremely successful. You're thinking about 180,000 migrants and asylum seekers that we were able to transition on the next level of their journey. And so we're going to sit down with them. This is the beginning of the process. It has just started. In fact, the DJ hasn't even played the music, so the dance has just begun. And we're going to make sure we show why we need the money. We still have a substantial number of migrants and asylum seekers that are here in the city, and we believe that when we sit down with our city lawmakers that are in Albany, they're going to see the need and requirement for it.
Cuts are still on the table.
I'm sorry?
You want to do a hypothetical if cuts are still on the table?
Yeah, no, we don't want to do hypotheticals because as we saw year after year after year, you know, when we talk about these issues, we saw that people gave us doomsday scenarios, and just the opposite. You know, we've landed a plane over and over again. You know, Dan, we still got 46,000 migrants and asylum seekers that are in the city. We were successful in our transition, but it still exists. And so we're gonna go through the process.
Mr. Mayor, on a different topic of closing some of these early childhood centers, in West Ninos, I spoke to the owner, and she said there was a bit of an error. You stood at this podium and you said that specific location had 4 students. Mm-hmm. She said that was a mistake, that they actually have 96, they're fully enrolled. So looking at the bigger picture now, and maybe there was a clerical error, Will you reverse course on some of these closures? And if you don't, I know you say every child is guaranteed a seat, but can you guarantee that they'll get a seat in that neighborhood where that center is?
Yeah, I really need New Yorkers to understand what we have accomplished in this administration. And it's amazing, a narrative can take over the facts. Dan, we were clear. Every child that wanted a seat will have access to a seat. We broke records on the number of children who have enrolled. We've invested more money than any other administration in this area. 170,000 children were able to get, 150,000 children were able to get access to seats. No one has ever did that before. The number of applicants that we were able to process, no one has done what we've done before. But what we had to do, I inherited 30,000 empty seats that taxpayers were paying for, 30,000. And when I told the team to do, let's look at the alignment. We had far too many places where you had a small fraction number of students there where there were other daycare centers in the areas. Those 5 areas, those 5 centers that you're looking at, they didn't reach the number of seats. There was an equation that we put in place. The number of children in the seats, the cost of the rents. You know, in one location they wanted to go from 30,000 to 80,000 a year for 20 years. Lock this city in for 20 years. And they were densely populated areas where in a few distance away, there was other locations for them to go. So there's a reason that bond raters are raising our bonds because I'm fiscally responsible. I got to make the right decision for taxpayers. So I have my chief of staff now sitting down. I spoke with AG James. We communicated with Congresswoman Velasquez. I spoke with Borough President Reynoso. We want to sit down and see how do we come to a solution here. But it is encouraging for all of us to go out, find the children who should be in these seats. That's the real tragedy. If you look at a community where there are children who are not in these seats, so without the energy you're seeing now from my electeds, I need them to show that energy of going and help me find these children so we can get in the seats. We can't have a program where you have 40% of those children in the seat, taxpayers are paying into it, locking the city in for high rent for 20 years. I must be fiscally responsible, and that's what we're doing. So the door's not closed, and let's be clear on this. The schools, the centers are still open. Children are still going to school there. We didn't close them, and those parents don't have the children there. We just got to make sure we get it right, and that's the goal that we want to accomplish.
Hi, Mr. Mayor.
How are you?
Sky.
Good to see you.
My question is, you have been critical of the way that the mainstream media covers and reports on you. And in order to help us elevate what you're doing and to protect New York City, would you be willing to take the page out of the federal administration's book and invite independent media, podcasters, and social media influencers to join the New York City Press Corps and perhaps diversify the room and their subsequent reporting on you?
Now, I am hoping that the administration took a page out of my book. And when I said that Room 9 should look like the local media. Yes, I agree with you 100%. We need to allow the bloggers, we need to allow the local media, you need to have access. You need to be in this room to cover the news in the right way. I find that when you do that, you have a diversity. And it's not a secret to me that many of the legacy media stations are losing viewers. I'm not making this up. And so I say yes. I would love to see more bloggers here. I would love to see, I'm on non-traditional station. The other day I did Stephen A. Smith. I do local Instagram posts, so I agree with you 100% that we need to open, all of these entities need to open to the new form of media and how people are getting their information. And millions of views. And what I enjoy about it is they allow you to give a full scope of what you're doing and not the distorted, filtered view. I'm with you 100%. And it's good to see you here. Invite your friends.
Hi, Ms. Mr. Mayor.
How are you?
Good. Glad to see you're feeling better.
Thank you very much.
I know health is a private matter, but I am wondering if you could give us a little bit more detailed clarity on the kinds of tests that you had last week, what you may have thought was wrong with you, and then separately, the New York Times reported, and many other outlets backed this up, that your legal team, the Department of Justice, and the Manhattan federal prosecutors are all talking about possibly dropping the charges against you. Want your reaction to that?
Okay, two things. And one, I meant to bring that chart. I forgot to look at the chart. Bring that chart. I didn't tell them to load it. That week that I decided to go off, I was feeling real pain in my side, and I didn't know what it was. And to be honest with you, when I went to the doctor, one of the most scary things to do when you go to the doctor, when he said, and not many things scare me, but I was concerned. And the doctor said, Eric, I want you to take a series of tests. And I decided to do that. When I sat down, I was telling Jordan, Jordan, I went to the doctor, and he wants me to take some tests, and I have to go under for one of them. And Jordan just like, listen, Dad, hit pause, man. Hit pause. It's time for you. You got to take care of yourself. And so thanks to the team, I reached out to the team. I said, Fabian, listen, I'm going to go under for a couple of days. I'm going to still be in communication, but I was going to be under anesthesia. And so I wanted to make sure that the team knew, and the team did what they were supposed to do. Thank God, as I said yesterday, to some people dismayed, I'm going to be around for a long time. All the tests came out negative. They want me to do some follow-up, but I feel good. But, the doctor reminded me, I added 25 pounds. And he said that, Eric, you were not just a symbol of how you reverse your diabetes, but you became an inspiration for New Yorkers. And so you have to really focus on your health. And so I'm getting back down to my true fighting weight. I'm looking at the stuff that I was consuming. I was just eating so many pastries and all of that. It's vegan and all that. Read the labels. And so I just got to refocus back on my health so I don't go back to that road of losing my sight, losing some fingers, losing some toes. And I want to inspire other New Yorkers that, health is your wealth. And so I feel much better, both mentally and physically, but also I have a new course when it comes down to my health, and I'm going to be cooking a lot of my food again. I stopped cooking my own food as I used to. I'm going to go back to a real heavy plant-based menu. 90% of your diet should be plant-based focused. I'm going to get those dark leafy greens in my body again. I'm going to make sure I consume the water I'm supposed to. And so sometimes, sometimes you go through a crisis and you come out better than you should. So that fear did not stymie me, it ignited me. And so, again, I feel much better.
The other question?
Yeah, what was the other?
Possibility of dropping the charges against you.
Now, I want us to do this in unisys. Alex, my attorney, any question, when I asked my attorney about this stuff, he said, listen, I don't try to tell you how to run the city. Don't try to tell me how to run my job of seeking justice for you. Call Alex. Any question you have dealing with my case. My job is to run the city of New York, and that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, so Mr. Mayor, just to follow up on that.
Yes,
so,
which one? He asked two questions.
The health question.
Okay, yes. Mm-hmm.
So why couldn't you have, because it was like radio silence from you.
Right.
Why couldn't you have at least made a video just to tell New Yorkers, this is what's going on, and you don't have to get that specific, but so-and-so's in charge, et cetera, et cetera. And why did it coincide with when the feds were doing the migrant raids? Do you think it looked like you were hiding?
It didn't coincide. They were doing I don't know if many people know, but ICE carry out actions all the time in the city. So it didn't coincide. But second, which is very important to the heart of that, is that I never left my role as being responsible for running the city. From the time that I was under what is that called again when they put you anesthesia? And I let the chief of staff know, and I let my FDM know. I reached out to her and said, listen, this is what I'm doing. I'm gonna be under anesthesia, so you guys should know. So all the responsible things you're supposed to do, we did. And so when you say, well, why didn't I, do a video? I got just the opposite from the public. People were texting, calling, and saying, do you, Eric? They said, all of this madness is going to be here when you come back. You focus on you. I didn't hear people say, well, why do you let us know? Why do you do this? No, people were calling me. Clergy was calling me. People were sending me prayers. People were saying, you do you. And I don't know if any of you have gone through a medical scare in your life or a loved one that's do so. The last thing you're thinking about is your deadlines. You think about your family member. And so I wasn't thinking about, what's going to be tweeted. I was thinking about doing me. I needed to come back and enjoy my Tuesday off topics.
Morning, Mr. Mayor.
What's up, David?
The Department of Government Efficiency has been really running riot in Washington, D.C., and we get billions of dollars from the federal government. Are you at all concerned about the possibility of sudden cuts in federal monies that have been appropriated for the city? And also, do you believe, just on a related question, do you believe that DOGE is genuinely carrying out a mission related to efficiency?
What was the first part you said? You said that they're doing what?
That's just maybe editorializing on my part, but I think it's safe to say the way they've been doing things in D.C. that they're kind of ransacking the federal government.
Okay. And I think that what we have done successfully, and really want to take my hat off to my comms team, Kayla, and Fabian, and the whole team over there. What we have done successfully is whenever something happens, either an EO, an action, we have analyzed that, and just looked at it, see what's the impact to our agencies and administration. We didn't try to editorialize everything that we see and give our own opinion. We have to look at what's happening in the city. How does it impact us? And make smart decisions with our legal team and what our response is going to be. And we're seeing examples of that over and over. I think it was last week, the question was raised about the tariffs. And we said, Jock is going to analyze that. Instead of just like other people started marching and protesting, soon enough, the tariffs were taken off the table. When there were cuts to budgets, people started holding press conferences and started yelling and screaming. Sure enough, it was reversed. The goal is not just to just constantly respond, and I think one of our leaders said, don't try to swing at every pitch. I've always said I was an Aaron Judge guy. And so that is what we're doing. We have to run a city. And what's interesting about what I believe is happening now is that you can't run cities on social media. I said after my victory as mayor that people on social media don't choose mayors. People on Social Security, they choose mayors. You can't run a complex city like this on social media. And there's a desire immediately when something happened, I want to tweet out. No, let's govern. And that's what I'm going to do. So we're going to analyze whatever actions happen, and we're going to make the right decision based on that. And we're not going to add to the hysteria and the anxiety that I'm seeing throughout the city.
Is the way DOGE is operating causing more anxiety?
I'm sorry?
The way DOGE is operating causing anxiety?
They were given a mission. They were given a job to do, and every action they take, we will analyze and make the right decision based on that.
Mr. Mayor, how are you?
What's up, Craig? How are you doing?
Good. Glad you're feeling better.
Thank you very much.
So just building on what Dan had asked about. So when you announced your preliminary budget, you actually touted $1.1 billion in savings in migrant spending in the next fiscal year.
Yes.
So doesn't it seem like this is just more aligned in state funding to your new budget moving forward? Since you didn't spend everything this fiscal year, rolled it into next year, we're allowed to have a little bit more wiggle room with that. Doesn't that seem like that's how I'm kind of squaring the circle of how maybe lawmakers got to that number in Albany? And then building on your undisclosed illness last week, I'm really happy you're okay.
Thank you.
Obviously, you went under anesthesia. Mm-hmm. You kept New York City in the dark that you were even under anesthesia. I'm not sure legally, not a lawyer, of how this triggers whether or not you can perform your job, but I know at the federal level, typically it has to trigger, people need to be made notified. Did you notify the public advocate? Was there any conversation with lawyers? You knew you had to do this beforehand, of what you needed to legally do as to notify people in the city, and how did that go? And why do you feel, I mean, you're the mayor of the largest city of New York, you say everybody wants to live here, but why do you not feel that you had to tell them that at that point, I know it's a personal thing, but you were unable to do the job, at least under anesthesia, and let them know what was going on?
Wow, that is, I don't know if everyone picked up the same thing that I did, but that was one of the longest questions I've ever heard, man. Listen.
You say that for a lot of questions. Usually we don't like the questions.
Okay. I answered that, and I hope you will understand the answer. And I'm sure if you ever go through a personal health issue, you're going to respond the way you think is best for you, and that's what I did. So I answered that question.
As Josh said, I don't believe that you had, in my perspective, you didn't answer that question.
Okay, that's
Meaning
okay.
that it's not personal. Like when I go through something, I don't have a constituents in the city to respond to. You do. So why do you not feel that when you're under anesthesia, you had to let the public know that?
Right. And we did everything we were required to do during the period under anesthesia. Everything we were required to do, we did. I said that. I spoke to the first deputy mayor. I spoke to the chief of staff. I spoke to those who needed to do. The executive order makes clear. My executive order makes clear that if I can't perform my duties, the FDM will perform the duties and have the powers. That's clear. So I already laid out. You don't have to reinvent it every time something happens. We laid it out. It was clear. We carried out exactly what the executive order stated to do so. Your first question.
You're asking for $1.1 billion.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, got it. This is what happens when if you look at the budget last year, the year before, the year after that, before that, you factor in what you're trying to get from Albany. And you go up to Albany and you present your case. My first presentation of that was yesterday when I sat down with the governor and I spoke with the leaders. That's what you do. And we're hoping to get that, the $1 billion. And if you don't, you have to come and sit down with the council and reconfigure. This is the same dance that have been going on as long as I could remember. Now, when you talk about the money that we didn't spend, we get money back from Albany on a reimbursement level. We spend it, then we have to apply to get it back. Every dollar that we put out, that we spent, that they allocated for us, we spent it. It's about getting the money back now as we do the reimbursement.
Hi, Mr. Mayor.
Yes. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Good.
I wanted to ask you about something we've reported about guidance that went out to
So
staff.
what?
Guidance that health and hospitals put out
Yes,
to its staff about ICE. The staff got a memo a few weeks ago telling
Yes.
them not to, quote, actively help a person avoid being found by ICE, which is, I think, word for word what NYU Langone also told its staff. Our understanding is that doctors are worried about this guidance because they're afraid it'll conflict with their obligation to their patients, and also that there's already some protocol that governs, staff interactions with ICE. So what's the need for this new guidance on top of that? Were you aware of it? Is it necessary?
Yeah. First of all, this is a lot of emotions around these issues, but we have an obligation as a city to not place city employees in any way of violating a law, and that's what H&H did. We have an obligation to do that, and they sent a memo to their employees urging them not to try to actively help a person avoid being found by ICE. And so it's crucial that we're making clear that individuals who have health care issues, I've said this over and over again, should go to the hospital, should get medical care. People who are victims of any form of criminality should reach out to the police. Children should go to school. I continue to say that over and over again. But we have an obligation to make sure that we give guidance to our employees. The role of ICE is to the federal government through ICE is to handle immigration issues. That is their job and that is their responsibility.
Well, why the new guidance? Like, there was already a protocol. Is it because there was some fear that staff were going to actively help people avoid being detected, and so there was some need to
Yeah, well, if H&H wanted to do clarity based on their observation of the EOs, I commend them for doing so. Each time we see something come down, we turn it over to our lawyers. They do an evaluation, and if we have to update the guidance that we issue, we're going to update the guidance that we issue. We're not going to stay away from doing just that. And I think it's important to remember this is not new. On January 16th, I believe, the memo was sent out before the new administration took office beforehand. And so this guidance is nothing new. Everybody may be hypersensitive right now, but we're going to constantly give our employees, 300,000 employees, the right direction so that we're never going to put them in harm's way.
Morning, Mr. Mayor.
How are you? Good.
I'm well, sir. Thank you. On your mandatory trash containerization for small residential buildings,
yes.
We've received complaints from dozens of readers about their trash cans being stolen.
Mm-hmm.
What can your administration do to ensure these people who are paying $50, $60 for a mandatory trash can don't need to repeatedly do so?
Right.
And that their property is being protected?
Yeah, and we have not received a significant amount of complaints on trash cans being stolen. And, I'm going to speak with DSNY on what are some of the tips we can do to secure that, because no one wants to pay $50 and then all of a sudden have someone swipe their trash cans. And so we're going to see what tips we could do to ensure that people are not stealing their trash can. But a theft is a theft. And the same processes we put in place when any type of theft is taking place, the New York City Police Department is going to do that. But I want our DSNY to come creative and see how we can secure some of these trash cans. But we're not seeing an exorbitant amount of complaints that people are stealing their trash cans.
Thank you. Hi, Mr. Mayor.
How are you?
Happy
Good
to
to see
hear
you.
you're doing well.
Thank you.
So first question, please, is I think what I hear you saying is that this guidance may be going out right now because of changes or perceived changes, but is the hospital guidance new or not new, just to be super clear? And other than picking up criminals, is there any other change that you're aware of in how ICE is operating in New York City since President Trump took over? That's my first question.
No, I'm not aware of any other way, and we haven't seen any other directions or indication of that. We were really proud to coordinate with them to get a very dangerous gang member off our streets, and we look forward to dealing with those criminal aspects. But I'm not aware of that.
And just on the hospital, real
Yeah.
quick before I ask my other question, the hospital guidance, if it's new or not, sorry, just kind of understand the answer.
That way. Yeah.
Is the hospital guidance that was sent out new or just reminding of an existing policy?
Yeah, I see it. It was placed out before the election was before the administration took office, and I just think it's imperative that we have to be in a constant update and reminder to our city employees. It is our obligation to inform city employees. The corp counsels, the hospital lawyers, they have a fiduciary responsibility to make sure employees are well aware of what the laws are.
And Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
as mayor of the city with the largest Jewish population outside of Israel, what was your reaction when President Trump said last night that the U.S. will be involved in a takeover of Gaza?
It's so important. Again, I am not going to respond to every message that comes out of any place in government. We will analyze and we see the impact. I know what my role is. My role is what we have done successfully, is to protect the lives of those from Palestine, from Israel, Muslim, Jewish. The same thing we did during the Ukrainian war against Russia. We were clear that our Ukrainian citizens and Russian citizens are going to live peacefully in this city. That's my job. Federal governments would deal with the international conflicts. That is not my job. It's hard enough to deal with the international conflicts right here in this city. And so the president and his team is going to deal with those international issues. I need to make sure that people are safe that lives in the city. And we're doing that. Crime continues to drop in the city.
Mayor, how you doing?
Good. How are you? Hey, Jeff, how are you?
Good, good.
Good.
I wanted to ask a quick question. You said previously that you weren't going to refrain from criticizing President Trump because you had a direct line, direct access to reach out to him. I'm wondering, any of these issues that have come up, have you felt the need or have you used that direct access to try to reach President Trump? And I'm wondering if during those times, have you discussed with him at all potentially dropping the federal case against you?
First, we need to all do this in unison on his last question. Who we calling? Alex. Call Alex. Any question deal with my trial or anything else, call Alex. My job is to focus running the city. I cannot get that any clearer. And when I talk about communication with the president, I'm talking about communication with the administration. The Homeland Security Secretary, she mentioned that I spoke with the mayor several times. Other members of the administration mentioned the same thing. So it's all about communicating with the administration, and that is what we said over and over again. And what I find fascinating is that I was never questioned about my communications with the Biden administration. Never. No one said that, are you doing this over and over again? Why are you doing this over and over again? The Homeland Security Secretary, I tried repeatedly to reach Secretary Mayorkas to talk about these issues. And what's fascinating is that at the end of the administration, they started adopting the things I wanted to talk about: securing the border, increasing other areas of security around the edge. So they started adopting, but unfortunately, they caught on too late. And so, when I speak with the president, and when I speak with his team, when I speak with whomever is with his cabinet, it's about the city. How do we make sure we get resources for the city? And that is exactly what the Homeland Security Secretary stated. What I spoke to her about, that is exactly what Tom from ICE stated. They will all tell you the same thing. Eric talks about the city. I advocate for the city of New York. I have a legal team to advocate for me.
Thank you. Mayor.
Hi, it's
Yes,
Amy
how are you?
from City and State. How are you?
Good.
You talked to Tucker Carlson a couple weeks ago, and you talked about your corruption case and the charges against you. You didn't tell him to talk to Alex Spiro. Why are you telling us?
I'm sorry, say it again?
You talked to Tucker Carlson about your case, your legal case, a few weeks ago. You didn't tell him to ask Alex Spiro any of his questions. Why are you telling us that we can't ask about the case? We have to talk to Alex when he's spoken about it with Tucker Carlson.
I don't think there was anything on Tucker interview that I didn't say with you already. I gave you my feelings on it. I talked about the same thing I said to Tucker. I said to all of you. The difference is he heard it and didn't keep asking over and over again. You guys want to ask weekly, or when you see me on the train station or in a restaurant, you want to put the phone in my face and ask me the same question again. There was nothing unique about my conversation with Tucker that I didn't say to all of you. Alex Spiro is handling my case, and if you have any questions, ask him. I'm handling the city.
Can I follow up? We've seen from some city council members and Congress members, they've been doing Know Your Rights information sessions for immigrant communities. Have any of your city agencies been doing that kind of communication to immigrant communities? And if not, why not?
Yeah, I don't think anyone has done a better job in communicating Know Your Rights than Commissioner Castro. Manny and I traveled to the Darien Gap together. We traveled to the El Paso together. Here's a dreamer that's now in charge of the dreams of others. He has done an amazing job on scenario planning. He has done an amazing job of informing, bringing together immigrant groups to have this conversation. Pastor Morose held many of our clergy leaders. And so, yes, Manny has led the way on this issue.
Thank you. Hi, Mr. Mayor.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good.
So first, I wanted to get your reaction to ICE deputizing some detectives in Nassau County. Is that something that you and the NYPD would look at doing? And then I have a second question for you as well.
We already work on task force with our federal partners to go after dangerous individuals. Currently, our laws do not allow us to do civil enforcement, but we already work with our partners, and we increase the numbers to deal with criminality with ICE. So they probably deputize them for another reason, but we already work with our federal partners to go after dangerous people.
You said that increased? You said that number
Yeah,
increased?
we increased numbers on our task forces to help go after those who are violent offenders in the city.
And then second question for you.
Yes.
I know you're looking for $1 billion from the state legislature, but why not go to the federal government and ask for that money? I know that was a big criticism of the Biden administration, that they only gave the city, a little few $1 million. Why not go to the Trump administration, or have you?
We're going to have a 10-cup day everywhere. The city council, the state, the federal government, our 10 trips to Washington, D.C. under the previous administration, we were asking for funding. They gave us $200 million. We only were able to draw down on $100 and something million out of almost a $7 billion deficit. And so we're going to be asking everyone to help us with this crisis. And thank God for what our team were able to do. That we were able to bring down our population, 180,000 people. If we were listening to all the naysayers, we would still have 220,000 people in our care. We saved our city billions of dollars because of an execution of a smart, dignified 30, 60-day plan that everyone yelled at us about. The same people who yelled at us about decreasing the population are saying, don't bring a shelter into our area. Come on, can't have it both ways.
I wanted to follow up on that $1 billion that you're asking the state for. I just want some clarity because in your preliminary budget, you said that there's higher than expected tax revenue. There was the savings that Craig talked about, but also the number of migrants in the city's care is going down.
Yes.
So is the $1 billion for money you've spent already, or is it for this upcoming fiscal year? Because it seems a little bit confusing based on the information you gave us last month.
Okay, and it may seem a little confusing, but when it all plays out, when the dance is over, you will see that what we have done is make sure we have the money to carry out what we need to deal with the final aspect of the migrant asylum seeker process. And so I think you just got to ride this out and trust us. We're going to get it done.
Follow up. Last year, the same thing. You asked for $2 billion last year.
Yes.
But the migrant population was much higher. How is it that this year you're asking for so much, and Jock Jihad was able to find all this money eventually, or move it around, I guess you could say. How is it that the state should trust those numbers that you're presenting to them when last year the numbers slowly changed?
I think they should trust us based on our success. We took the greatest humanitarian crisis I believe this city has ever experienced, and we navigated through it, even after having a close to $8 billion deficit crises that we had to fund for. And so right now, this is a moment of trust, and I trust Jock. When you look at what Jock has accomplished in 3 years, you have to look at what the experts are saying. The experts are saying, trust us. And so I say the same thing, trust us. No, I'm not going to let us leave without calling your name.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, I wanted to follow up on other Jeff's questions.
Yes.
Just to be clear, have you spoken directly to the president, to Trump, since he took office? And then have you raised any issues or compliments or anything?
Have I?
Spoken directly to Trump since he took office?
Yes, just to talk about needs of the city. Mm-hmm.
And then there was also the Times reported that your cooperation with immigration was part of the discussion about dropping the case. Basically, that you would be more likely to cooperate with immigration officials if you didn't have this case hanging over you.
No, I didn't hear you. Did you say Times also falsely reported, or you said Times also reported? Which one did you say? I didn't hear it right, because my attorney responded to that, and I don't think my attorney beat around the bush. He said it was a lie.
Hi, Mayor Zinnia.
How are you?
Yes. Quickly, next week, can you confirm that you're going down to DC to testify regarding New York City sanctuary city laws? And if so, what are you gonna want to make sure you get across during your testimony?
We were invited to go down. Deputy Mayor Raspberry and her team are figuring out the logistics, and so once we know when we're going and all of that stuff, we'll make sure that we inform the Corps. But we were invited to go down. Our team is they are in communications right now to work out all of the logistics. And we want to. I would like to share, what I've talked about for the longest. The American people have communicated loudly and clearly. We need to secure our borders. We need to make sure those who are violent and dangerous in our cities are not continuing to do what we are witnessing in places like Chicago and others. And we're going to state that when you deal with immigration, that's a national issue, and cities should not be held responsible for that. And that is what my communication is going to be. And we're going to share what we've done here. We've done an amazing job. National leaders said that we're a symbol of what should be done, and we're going to share what we've done here. And whatever other questions, we don't know exactly what question they're going to ask. What's up, Katie?
Same old. I wanted to ask you, you addressed it a little bit. I have two questions. The first one is, you said you're telling students to keep going to school. I know some parents might be afraid. You you disagreed with Senator John Liu's questioning about this yesterday. But I wanted to know, will you give a stronger message to parents? Because plenty of reporters have spoken to teachers, administrators, and parents who are really afraid to go to school. I know there might be different attendance drops on individual schools as in addition to the whole system. So I don't know if you will give a stronger message to parents to let them know that they are safe going to school, being in school, but then also coming to and from school. And my second question is, I know you discussed your illness. We're glad that you're back. But it was reported by Politico that you met with 2 union leaders at Gracie Mansion. So it seems like a mixed message. You said you were too ill to kind of do the duties, to have a press conference, whether it be virtual or not, yet you met with union leaders. I don't know, were they helping you with your illness, or what was the reason for their visit on the first day of your illness?
I'm not quite clear. First of all, I never said I was ill. I said I wasn't feeling my best. I wasn't feeling well. And yeah, and a modified schedule is just that, a modified schedule. People who know me, I'm up at 5, doing my routine, and sometimes I don't go to bed until about 1 o'clock in the morning. So I modified my schedule. So folks who wanted to meet me and have chats at 11 p.m., I'll say, listen, I'm not doing that. I have a modified schedule, and there was only a few people I was seeing, and those 2 union members were waiting to see me for a long time, and I enjoy speaking with them. Stronger message for children. What could be stronger than what I have done? I have kept our children safe in our schools. We have not had mass shootings in our schools. I don't believe we had a shooting in our schools since I've been mayor. I want to knock on wood. What is a stronger message than going to school? We're going to protect you in school, our school safety officers, our police officers. We're going to instruct our teachers and principals on what they should do and shouldn't do. I don't know what you call a stronger message. There is this desire that people seem to have of they just want to fight. I don't want to do that. I want to produce a product. And you're going to see at the conclusion of this period in history that Eric did what was best for the children and families of the city, no matter who they are. So I don't know what you mean by a stronger message. My message has been clear, and it has been strong. And so when you go back to what John stated, that there was this drop in attendance. You don't measure attendance week by week. That's not how you do it. There was a lot of things that was happening that week. Cold weather, it was a short week. I think the Regents was happening that week. That's why you don't do week to week. And when you look at the month of January, there was no difference in the drop from the previous January to this January. And so the goal is to just bring down the anxiety, and part of that is sending a message that, as I said over and over, mothers, send your children to school. If you need health care, go to the hospitals. If someone is treating you unjustly or committing a crime, call the police. That's what your tax dollars pay for.
Hi, Mayor. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm glad you're feeling better.
Thank you.
Wanted to check in on subway safety.
Yes.
I'm wondering, are we at full deployment with the 2 officers on every train? And you and I spoke 2 weeks ago. I know you got a lot going on, so I'll remind the conversation. You said mental health professionals would not be with them, but would be on call in case they encountered someone who clearly could not take care of themselves or was creating problems.
Yes.
So I'm wondering if you have any sort of data or information about how many people have been pulled from the trains or intervention efforts that have happened in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, no, don't have those numbers. We get them from DM Williams Isom and the New York City Police Department. And remember those 2 officers on the train, they're doing patrol. They're doing patrol. So it's not only dealing with those who are homeless or those who are dealing with mental health issues, they're doing routine patrol. So we're not assigning clinicians or mental health professionals with them. Their job is to correct conditions if it's criminality or any other issue. But right now, when it comes down to the actual deployment of those officers, 2 officers on the train, we have full deployment for that. They're on the trains. They're doing the exact time. I think 9 p.m. to 5 p.m. if I remember the hours exactly. And we're seeing success. The numbers in our subway system, we're showing the numbers are going down. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna go out there probably Friday or Saturday and just look at that. As a matter of fact, I always like to do show and tell. I guess I'm going back to my childhood days. On the roll. Subway ridership surges, transit crime plunges, and congestion pricing era. So everybody's on the train, we're rolling along, all that hysteria. Our subway system is moving in the right direction. And, you don't have to get off this stop, but just make sure you pay your fare as you ride forward. All right, Kayla? Thank you.